Hey everyone, today we're talking to Christian Fisher, the frontman of the pop punk band Settle Your Scores and the co-founder of Durandal Dice, which actually is the first thing I want to ask you about, if that's cool. I'm going to hit you with three questions real quick. A, did I say that right? Was Google correct in the pronunciation? B, what was the catalyst of starting it? And C, what sets you apart from other tabletop companies?
Yeah, man. So you said it pretty much right. There's a couple of pronunciations. We call it Durandal just because I don't know, for whatever reason that's what we've always called it. But Durandal's also another correct pronunciation. The name is actually based on this like ancient sword that one of these Crusader knights from like the Crusade Wars had.
It
So
was
it was
Roland from of Charlemagne, right? That's
yeah,
what I looked up.
he was given a sword from the heavens and he used it to slay a bunch of people and then he threw it into a mountain.
That's pretty dope.
So dude, yeah, it's a pretty cool story. The reason we picked that name though is that sword, I mean, it appears in a lot of other media, but my business partner Joe and we're like huge Fire Emblem fans,
Okay, yeah.
and Durandal is one of the swords you get in some of the older Fire Emblem games. So that was one of the reasons we picked that name. But I mean, the reason we did it is we just are super into D&D and tabletop, and we figured, hey, why don't we just try making our own dice? It sounds cool. And then we just made some, and they were really crappy at the beginning, but then we fine-tuned everything, man.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen them. They look gorgeous, and it's pretty much just dice right now, right?
Yep. And to kind of answer the third part of your question, that's kind of what sets us apart is we actually hand make every single die. A lot of companies say they do, but they don't. We seriously sand, polish, paint, scrub, mold every single die individually. So a lot of these companies, they say they make them handmade, but then they order them from China. And they are handmade in China, but they're not actually making them themselves. But we take the a lot of time to get them handmade, like legitimately.
That's awesome. So you guys, I've seen they come in kind of waves in a sense. How do you guys decide, or who designs them, and then what's the process like? Because I love D&D and tabletop stuff, but I don't really know anything about the industry.
Yeah, man. I mean, we're definitely like 50-50 when it comes to the creative decisions, but in terms of kind of how the dice get made, we split the tasks. So Joe, he does the molds and he actually casts the die, or I guess dice, so that they're actually like made. And then I handle pretty much everything after that. So I do like sanding, I like clip them down, I get them all smoothed out, and then he paints them. So we kind of like send them back and forth. But in terms of like picking colors and like themes and stuff, it's 50-50. We typically just say, hey, this sounds cool. Or Joe will just come with me with like a color scheme or like an idea, and then we just agree on it. Typically it's 50-50.
Nice. So,
Yes,
and then
sir.
do you guys do the old Coca-Cola thing where if you're doing a campaign and you use someone else's dice, you're out, you're fired?
What do you mean?
Like now can you only use dice that you've made if you're running a campaign
Oh,
or playing?
no, man. I use plenty of different dice. Like I have like a huge actually I have a bag of dice like sitting right here just like full of them.
Nice.
Like yeah, I use them all, man. I don't discriminate on dice. If it looks cool, I'll buy it.
That's totally valid. I'm behind you there. And when you
Hell
guys
yeah.
do play, do you have like a favorite class or type of campaign, or do you just go with whatever you guys are doing?
It honestly depends, man. Right now I'm in a couple of different campaigns of like tabletop stuff. I'm in one campaign where it's fifth edition D&D, and I play a half drow paladin. So I kind of like playing whatever. I just like creating characters and like getting into the character themselves. It doesn't really have to be a specific kind of character. I'll just think of an idea and go with it. But me and Joe, we tend to play fifth edition D&D. That's like our go-to game.
Gotcha. And then so do you
Yeah.
guys get like really into the literal role playing? Like you were saying you just like to roll with it. Do you adopt character voices or anything like
Oh,
that?
dude. Yes, absolutely.
Nice.
The other night, me and Joe, he actually is. potentially DMing another campaign outside of the one I'm in currently, and it was like a test run of just all the characters in this potential party, and it was really fun. But yeah, we do full voices. Sometimes I even have like cosplays for some of the characters that I
Oh,
do.
dude.
I go all the way. Yeah, I'm a total loser when it comes to it, man. I love D&D and actually getting into the characters themselves. It's super fun.
Yeah, I mean that's the opposite of a loser. That's literally what you're supposed to be doing.
All day.
And then for the dice y'all make, is it mostly D&D focused, or are there like different sets that you guys are doing for like Pathfinder or maybe
Right.
even Cyberpunk to be relevant?
Hmm. Yeah, we've done themed dice in the past where it's like just, calling out, or I guess referencing certain franchises, but we typically just make the typically we make, it's like the 7-piece standard tabletop set, so D20, D12 down to the D4.
Nice. That seems like the most expedient route. I just didn't know if there were big differences between, because I'm, as much as I love D&D, I've only gotten a few chances to really like get into a campaign, and other than that, it's been more, I like story based kind of tabletop stuff like Betrayal and a few of the others. So I didn't know if you guys had plans to kind of expand into something not specifically D&D, or you're
Right.
feel good having your niche.
Yeah, typically, I mean, the cool thing about 7-piece sets is they can be used in a lot of different kinds of games, not just D&D, but I mean, in my, like when we made the company and stuff, that was what we had in mind, was just Dungeons and Dragons in general. And then, I mean, they can be used for other things, but we have thought of kind of making some dice that were a little bit, like smaller than what we typically make, or like bigger. A lot of people ask for tiny dice for some reason. They want like the mini ones. We thought of that before, and then we've also thought of like making a little bit larger type dice, but it's not happened yet, but it's definitely in the works. We're thinking about it.
Nice. What, have they ever told you what the mini dice are for? I haven't heard of that.
No, some people just they'll use them for D&D. They just want them to be small. Like, I don't know
Okay.
why. It's like it's like this weird thing that people like to do. They like rolling tiny dice.
Maybe if they don't have as much mass, they don't roll off the table as often or
I don't
something.
know.
Although I
Low,
guess that's what
small,
dice
small
towers are
dice,
for.
high rolls.
Yeah, exactly. Well, since we've covered that, I'm going to jump into talking about Settle Your Scores, which I want to preface by saying that you guys were supposed to be our first show. As know, this is Patrick. We were going to play with you in Nashville and with Crunkosaurus Rex, and you guys got held up or something, or unable to tour like the day before. Do you remember that?
That must have been, if it was Crunk, that must have been years and years ago.
It,
Was
it
it before
was,
they were
yeah.
Home Sweet Home?
Yes.
Damn. I mean, we went on tour with them. That was like one of our first tours ever, was with Crunk. Um, I wonder if it was a part of one of our first tours, because we went out with them. It was kind of like southeast. So we went like through like Maryland and like the East Coast. So I don't know. Maybe that might have been on that tour. I'm not sure.
It must have been,
But
because they didn't know where you guys were either.
oh.
Yeah, they
Hmm.
made it. We ended up playing, and whole other story. We ended up playing our first show with like a fill-in singer. One of our friends from Wisconsin literally drove down to fill in since we had committed to the show. Um, but yeah, we ended up playing with Crunkosaurus Rex in the Flex Room at Rocketown in Nashville. But so we still haven't gotten to play with you guys, and I haven't seen you guys live yet. But that was, I think, right after The Wilderness came out.
Dang.
If that seems like
Maybe
it lines
maybe
up.
I mean, we must have been on that run, and maybe we had to leave for some reason, because we've had some crazy stuff go on like during tours, but we like don't post about it online, where it's like personal life stuff. But I'm trying to think of what might have happened then. But either way, I've been following Know This Is Patrick for years and years, like since we went out with Crunk. I'm pretty sure like I had heard of you guys since back then. I know you guys have been putting stuff out periodically since we started doing that. So that's awesome, man. We should definitely, once coronavirus is gone and the music industry opens back up for touring, we should definitely rip a gig.
Dude, I would love that, because same thing. Like I've always kind of looked up to you guys. You've been like peers, but at least one step ahead of us, like pretty much the whole time. Because like I said, you had that full album out that was basically a modern classic in a sense, and we were just getting started. And so it's been like, oh man, Settle Your Scores just did this. Like, we need to get our asses in gear. Like, we got to catch up and stuff like that.
I appreciate that, man. I mean, I don't really look at it as like competitive or anything, but I've noticed I see you guys, you are on your game. You guys are always posting stuff like in groups, and you're always making sure that you plug your music. It's like I respect that hustle, dude. I know exactly what that's like. Just plugging spamming music and getting out there trying to get your name out there. I think we just got lucky, dude, honestly. I don't think we're better or worse than any other band. I think it was just when we released that album, we got somehow put onto like some Spotify playlists, and just like it randomly happened. You know what I mean? It wasn't we weren't working harder or less hard than anyone else. I think it was just luck.
Yeah, well, I think, I mean, obviously the industry and specifically the modern industry, like algorithms and things like that, are constantly changing. So we're
Yeah,
all always trying to figure it out. But obviously, the old sort of adage, like the best promotion is having a good product. So obviously, I think the biggest thing is you guys put out an incredibly solid album that sounds really good, which is something that's always a struggle for independent bands. So, like, how
definitely.
much do you guys focus on production, since it's so clean, but also it's not like it's fake or anything? And that's
Hmm.
why I loved that first album and the second. Like, how do you guys focus on production versus writing when you're going into a new record?
That's actually a really good point. We typically, whenever we record anything, we don't want to put it out unless it sounds like really, really crispy. That was kind of our goal with The Wilderness, was we want our first album to really stand out because of its quality and, you know, the songwriting too. But we heard about Capitol House Studio, which is the studio that recorded a lot of City Lights albums. Nick Ingram is the guy that runs. He's a really great dude. He's actually recorded multiple things from us. The Wilderness is the probably the one that people would know the most, but we actually have a third album that's unreleased. We're trying to get it out there as soon as things come together when it comes to the industry, but he recorded that album as well. Um, but I would say when it comes to quality, that's kind of what we always strive for when it comes to our production value, at least with the music, because all of us personally, like, we like raw sounding music, but we also prefer just like crispy, like clean production on things. I don't know. That's always how I've been personally as well. I just really like when audio quality is like crispy. I don't know how else to describe it, but crispy, but that's like the word I keep going to. You know
No,
what I mean?
that's I agree with that. Like, I'm the same way. It's like, yeah, I love Pup and being all fuzzy and dirty punk rock, but like when I'm writing songs, I want it to be like you said, crispy, punchy, clear,
Yeah.
balanced, like really spread out and everything, which is something that seems like it shouldn't be that hard to do, but it can be hard when you have 4 to 5 people writing parts and not knowing which is supposed to be the most important and so on and so forth. So that was
Hmm.
kind of part of my question is, how do you guys balance that, knowing now that that is one of your main goals when you're writing parts? Do you think about that, or do you finish writing a song and then you're like, all right, we've got a great producer, he's going to sort us out?
Right. I mean, the primary songwriter for our band is Ricky. He's our guitarist. He does a lot more vocals now too on album 3, but most of our songwriting, he will just go and write an entire song. He'll send us a demo version, and then we'll learn the parts. He'll like isolate all the different parts that each of us need to know, and then we just play them. Obviously, we do some like tweaking here and there based on just how things sound live and also how they sound in a studio. Because once Ricky sends those demos over, we do like a second demo to record everybody's parts so they, you know, feel comfortable with it actually going into the studio to record it legit. Our bassist Jeff handles that. He's the producer before the producer. He does all the demo work. He mixes and masters it. So we kind of do like 2 tests with it. It's the first is just playing live with Ricky's song that he produces the demo for. It's all him on that. And then we'll record that second demo with Jeff to kind of make sure like, hey, this is going to sound exactly how we want it to sound, because like all of us are going to be doing it in the studio as opposed to just Ricky. And then obviously the third part is when we actually get to the studio. We'll, you know, do the parts, and typically we'll reanalyze the songs every time we go into the studio, and then we'll add more parts like at the very end of the sessions, just to like, you know, add like some extra layers, some extra backing vocals, like things that would just like make the song pop a little bit more.
Yeah, good ear candy
um
stuff.
exact, like just oohs, ahs, like harmony, like, all that good stuff. Just stuff that you don't think of in like your first, I guess, like preliminary writing things.
Right. Yeah. That's what Andrew does for us. We're like, all right, we know there's a lot of stuff you can do. You just decide what to do because he'll layer that stuff to here and back. That's not a
Layers
phrase.
are
I
the
don't know why I
key.
said that. Yeah, layers
Layers are
is
all,
sorry,
what's
go
that?
ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, I was agreeing with like layers all day, dude. It's super important. I don't know why. Like you can have things in songs that you can live without, but once you add them, sometimes it's just like one of those things. Like if I heard the song without it, I don't think it would sound as good.
Absolutely. Yeah. And those are the ones that as long as it's not taking the place of something that was already there, unless that's on
Hmm.
purpose, then it's like why wouldn't you have that in there?
Exactly.
And I saw you said recently in one of the Facebook groups that the third record is definitively more straight pop punk than easycore, right?
Definitely. It is. I don't want to say Easycore fans will be disappointed because I feel like if you're a fan of our band, you'll still like it because it's definitely us. It's just less of that stereotypical chunky breakdown, you know. I mean, it's definitely like there's some Easycore elements. Like it's definitely still settle your scores and everything, but it's in terms of like when people think stereotypical Easycore with breakdowns, lots of screaming, it's definitely toned back. It's more old school pop punk, so like early 2000s type stuff.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I find that we have like kind of a similar, not dilemma, but because our writing is expanding, but also for kind of industry reasons, having such a specific term can kind of shoot you in the foot, as well as the fact
Yep.
that in the past couple of years, I don't know if you've noticed this, especially in those Facebook groups, people have an absurdly specific kind of expectation of what an easy core song sounds like.
Right.
So I think you guys and we probably have no interest in going that specific on every single song. So it's better to just say, yeah, like we love easy core, but it's just an ingredient. It's not the final product.
For sure. And like I said, like having those elements in songs, it's definitely a part of our sound, but we can't write 3 albums of just easy core. You know what I mean? It's just it's not fun. Like I don't know, me personally, I like metal songs. We had some metal songs on our second album.
Yeah,
Um
totally.
but all of us collectively, we just enjoy pop punk in general. It's not like we set out to be like we will be the best easycore band of all time, like we will write easycore forever, which don't get me wrong, easycore is sick. Like I still listen to some easycore, but I don't know, we just Ricky specifically, he said like, dude, I'm tired of chugging, like I don't want to write chugs for the rest of my life. Like he wanted to play some riffs, he wanted to kind of just chill and jam, it didn't want to be super technical. The new album is definitely still technical to some degree, but it's, I think they're more fun to play live in terms of um, our other songs like in the past, because it's, you know, it's less about making easy core and more about just playing what we like to play.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think there's no reason why, if you don't want to play chugs right now, it doesn't mean you can't come back and have one song or one section or even half an album of chugs next time. Like,
Yep,
there's no reason to panic.
absolutely. And there's definitely a couple songs on the new album where people be like, all right, sweet, like easy core. You know what I mean? There's definitely a couple.
Totally. Is there anything, I know you said early 2000s. Do you want to give any specific kind of inspiration examples or you want to keep that closer to the chest?
There's, I mean, when I say early 2000s, it's not just pop punk. We have a couple of songs in there that, for example, one of them is just a straight up emo song. Like it sounds like Taking Back Sunday or like Under Oath. It is totally like people will not expect it coming, but we did it. It's gonna be
Nice.
cool. We have a couple songs on there that they're a little bit poppier. So one of the singles that we plan to put out is kind of a little bit all time lowish. Um, what else? There's another one that's just poppy. It's just really poppy. It's like definitely pop punk, but it's poppier, more modern. But a lot of them are just more old school pop punk sounding. So I'm pretty excited for people to hear the mix. But if you had to put like a genre or like an overall blanket term on it, I would just say pop punk because it's as pop punk as it gets.
Right, because all those other things, like there's so many just kind of nitpicky debates, but all of those things are related. Even to me, pop punk and hit my microphone, even pop punk and metal, like they have enough things in common that they're adjacent. So yeah, there's no reason to limit yourself that way. And speaking
Hmm.
of the mix of songs on the album, it's sort of a discussion we've been having uh, as a band together. Is do you shit man? Do you prefer do you prefer an album that is mostly one kind of sound throughout the whole thing, or that kind of roller coaster effect of like, okay, two fast songs and a sad song and a heavy song, or whatever mix you choose it to be?
I don't know. With us personally, Ricky and Jeff writes some songs too. I forgot to mention that earlier, but Ricky, he'll just write whatever he wants to write, and then we'll kind of just push it all together. You know what I mean? It depends, but typically they all follow a certain theme. But for me personally, when I listen to albums, I don't really care. As long as the music's good, I will listen to an album that is just, straight metal. Like the other day I was listening to Gideon, which is just breakdowns over and over and over and over and
Right.
over. But then I'll switch it up. I'll listen to like, a pop album or whatever. I don't really care. I will listen to anything as long as it's good.
Right. Yeah. And I think something, I'll see if you agree with this, something that I really liked, speaking of metal, Chris Broderick, who for a while was in Megadeth, I remember him saying like, any music or art is good as long as it meets the artist's intention. So like you might not
Hmm.
like it, but that doesn't mean it's bad if that's what that person meant to make.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's something I'm trying to like remind myself, because I can be like in my head like making those judgments, but I'm like, I don't have like the only music taste in the world.
Right. I mean, that's why I've been trying to kind of broaden my horizons. Like when I was like a teenager, I was like, everything sucks except rock. Like if you like hip hop, you're a piece of shit. If you like pop, you're lame. I was like one of those kids that was trying to be all edgy. But if you expand your mind a little bit and listen to that other stuff, like it can actually improve your own music. Like if
Yeah.
you're taking elements from like pop songs and you're taking elements from hip hop songs and you're putting them into rock, you can do stuff like that. And I think it makes music better if you have a wider taste of music. So I think, don't get me wrong, I still definitely overall I prefer rock music just in general, but I think listening to other styles is very helpful as a musician, but it's also just like fun. You get to listen to other stuff.
Yeah, I found that recently where I'm trying to listen to something that doesn't make me like go into work mode of like, oh, they did this tone. I need to figure out how to do that or this or that. Like, so like I need to go back to finding music that I don't have to analyze.
Dude, I still do that no matter what I listen to though. Like I'll always be sitting there like, I wonder how they got that effect on the vocals. You know what I mean? Like I'll just nitpick and be like production wise, like how did they do
That's
that?
true. Like it's
Any genre.
inescapable. Although I find that it can help at least me set like one of my favorite non-rock artists is Churches, and they're one of the few like mostly electronic sounding bands that I listen to, because I was the same kid as you described, like everything else sucks, until I started like in college and stuff broadening a little bit with like influence from good friends who had a variety of things.
Right.
But since I don't know how to make good synth patches, I'm just like, oh man, I can go back to kind of envisioning these sounds as something more abstract as opposed to like,
Right.
oh, I like this tone or I don't like this tone on this guitar and things like
Hmm.
that. Although even within that, I've found like speaking of y'all's albums, like you'd be like, that's a totally different tone than I would have sat down and come up with myself. But now I like this one too because of how it was used. And I guess that kind of sums it
Absolutely.
up. It's just what you do with the tools you have.
For sure. Also, this is totally off topic, but that boxcar racer flag is freaking tight, dude. I love
Dude, thank
boxcar
you.
racer.
Yeah, I wanted to I use these as my backdrops because for this channel I'm kind of trying to get off the ground, because these two albums are the ones that made me want to do music for a living, which is like a weird pair, but I was on vacation when I was in like middle school or something and was listening to Boxcar Racer because my friend who got me into Blink was like, "Oh, you like heavier stuff too. You'll like Boxcar Racer." And then I was like, "Yes, I
Yep.
do like this." And then I watched the making of for Crack the Sky, and I saw that was one of the first like long form studio documentaries I watched, and I was like, that looks fun as shit. I have to do that. Like they're getting
That's
paid to
tight.
do that.
Dude, it's weird because I had never like growing up, obviously I knew who Blink 182 was, but I was more of like a like like radio rock, like Avenged Sevenfold, 3 Days Grace kind of kid. Like I
Hey,
liked
hey, I
pop punk,
love
but
Avenged Sevenfold.
I was gonna say I still love them, but that was like more mine was like I was like I thought metal was cool, even though like it was just all pretty much the same stuff. But like Blink 182 was on my radar, but I didn't like fanboy out like a lot of pop punk kids did. And I didn't know that Boxcar Racer or Plus 44 were a thing. And then we were actually, I think it was actually that Crunkosaurus Rex tour that you were talking about earlier. And I think it was Jeff put on Boxcar Racer. And I was like, I've never heard this Blink song before. And he's like, dude, this isn't Blink. And I was like, what do you mean? It's Tom DeLonge. It sounds like Blink. Sounds like Travis Barker too. He's like, no, dude, it's Boxcar Racer. It's a side project. There's only like one album for it. And it's like one of the best albums ever. And then he played the whole album. And I was like, holy shit. Like, how have I never heard of this? Like, I love Boxcar. It's like one of my favorite albums.
Yeah, because like we were saying, it's just there is a variety on it, but again, like that the guitar tone is something that like I'm always aiming for, and like you said, yeah, you can tell that it's Tom and Travis, but it's still different.
They even put Mark on a song. Like there is a song that is essentially Blink. I think it's the last song on the album where Mark sings some vocals, and it's like, why
Yeah,
didn't
on
you just put this on a
Elevator.
Blink album? Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what would always piss me off. Speaking of Avenged Sevenfold too, like especially back when those bands were starting to get bigger and we were in basically late elementary school, middle school, etc.
Right.
There were all these rumors of like, oh, Blink went on hiatus because Mark was still mad about Boxcar Racer, and it's like he was on the album. He clearly was
Yeah.
fine with it, like at least at
Yeah.
the
How could you be
time.
mad?
And the same thing with Sevenfold. They're like, oh, they don't scream anymore because Shadows like broke his voice. It's like, no, you're thinking of Matt Tuck from Bullet for My Valentine. Like that was a whole like almost a meme of a misunderstanding back then. And it's
Oh
just like,
man, that was one of the reasons I wanted to start playing guitar was Avenged Sevenfold. Just listening to like the solos on their songs, I was just like, how are they playing this? And then I would watch videos over videos over videos of like how to play like Avenged Sevenfold solos.
yeah, Sin is one of those players where you're like, this makes me want to play, but I also have no faith that I will ever reach that level
Oh,
because
I
it
will
seems
never be able to play
inhuman.
like him.
Yeah, it's just so like it makes me tempted to like put more stock in natural talent, even though I don't actually think that's like what it is. He clearly just worked at it and like for his whole life. But yeah, it was listening to them and Dustin and I were talking about this. It's because of Guitar Hero too, is how I discovered Sevenfold, to a certain degree Metallica and all these things, and just like, okay, this sounds awesome. Pretending to do it is awesome. Maybe I should learn how to really do it.
Just do it IRL, man.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, how do I play Unholy Confessions, and just doing it at like 1/10 of the speed and still doing it wrong.
I feel like every kid in that era tried learning Unholy Confessions. I did. I remember my first like official like band where we actually played live. That was one of the songs we played was Unholy Confessions.
Are you that band from that meme with the guy whose voice just dies while he's screaming for Unholy Confessions?
I'm not even kidding. There is a very similar video of my old band doing that, and for a second I thought it was our band because the singer looked just like our singer. We had a different singer. His name was Cameron. It was like way back in the day when I was in high school, and he looks like that guy kind of hopping around. So I was like, is this us? And then I was like, oh wait, no, it's not. It's some other.
Whew, thank God.
Yeah,
Although
we
it
butchered
could have
it.
at least been a claim to fame. Embrace the past, no matter how hard it sucked.
Embrace your meme.
Yeah, exactly. Honestly, that's the kind of a legitimate strategy nowadays. I mean, look at Bill Murray, and Dustin Parler and I have been trying to figure out TikTok because it seems to be helping a lot. I don't know. I haven't seen you guys on there yet, but are you tempting it or just leaving it alone?
So I think TikTok is like 100% necessity for any artist, at least nowadays. Our band, we haven't jumped on it yet, but I was talking with my wife about this the other day because she is like obsessed with TikTok, and she's good at like making the videos and like planning them and stuff. But she said like you have to get on TikTok. It's like one of the best ways to get new fans because with TikTok's algorithm, there are so many crazy things. We were kind of talking about like Spotify algorithms earlier. Their algorithm, if you upload consistent content, like you will get put out to thousands and thousands of people if you do it right. Like it's almost impossible to not get discovered on TikTok. It takes a lot of work and a lot of consistency. You know what I mean? And it's kind of cringe. It is. Like there's some cringy videos on TikTok, but I think it's completely necessary for any artist that's entering the game because a lot of new bands and a lot of new artists, that is where they have their start now. Like MySpace used to be our thing where it was like, let's get discovered on MySpace, bro. Now it's TikTok. TikTok is the new MySpace when it comes to music. As much as people don't want to admit it, it is. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
And I think that something that took me a minute to realize is, yeah, there's cringy stuff on TikTok. There's even some stuff that like borderline unethical, immoral stuff because
Yes.
it's the internet, but it definitely has more corners now. Like you don't, if you give it like a day or two, you don't have to see that other stuff. You can
Yep.
find your niche, and that seems to be what's happening. I think I want to say it was Adjust the Sales recently posted something where it was like, I literally, someone got into an argument with me over my own lyrics, and it ended up having so much engagement that his actual like Spotify listens went up by like thousands. And it's
Yep.
like, you gotta at least try for that, even if it's uncomfortable at first, because it kind of is.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, when people think of TikTok, they think of like all those like really cringy like TikTok used to be an app called I think it was like called Musically or Music
Yeah, that was
dot
when it was at its
ly,
worst.
and it was like just it was these weird like music dance boomerangs, and TikTok still has that, and it's a lot of it is that, but it's kind of like Reddit now where you instead of subreddits you have like subgenres of TikToks. So they have a pop punk TikTok, they have like cosplay TikTok. They have all these different kinds. So if you put the right hashtags on, you're going to get out to the people that are looking for what you put out. So one band that pops into mind for me is my boys in Action Adventure.
Hmm.
They released a song called Barricades, and I mean, they have always had sick music. Don't get me wrong. Like since their first EP I forget what it was. I think it was Rumble Pack, the Rumble Pack EP. They've been sick. Like they're a great band. I've loved them ever since I met them. But they put a song out, and it was like a minute long, and they made a video for it, and they put it in a TikTok, and their TikTok went viral, and their Spotify listeners shot up. They got like thousands and thousands of listeners. So like stuff like that, it could be literally just like one minute video. It could flip your stuff around. So like I always use them as an example because it was very recent where they got some success on the video. I think it was like a few months ago.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I loved that song as well. And I thought, I was like, oh,
Yep.
this is really interesting to have like a short song as your first single. And I did not even put two and two together that they would put it on TikTok. So that's genius. Like
Yeah, that
just
was I
format it.
think I like knew about the song and I listened to it on Spotify. I was like, dude, this is sweet. And then my wife was on TikTok and she was scrolling and I heard like a pop punk song. I was like, wait, is that Barricades? And I looked and I was like, yo, click that video. And it had like 500,000 like likes or views or something. And that was like right when they put it on. It was like viral. It was crazy, dude.
That's
I was like,
awesome.
wow, it's crazy. Like my wife, like she knows who that band is and everything, but it was just crazy that got thrown onto her page. You know what I mean? Like she wasn't searching for it; it just came to her.
Yeah, I mean that's the best evidence you can get for that is if it's an organic kind of discovery.
Right?
And
Exactly.
it helped that they had a like a good message, a relevant message. It's always relevant, but I mean the timing worked out and everything, and thankfully people kind of latched onto it. So thank you for
Oh yeah,
bringing that up because I that is a great example to try and follow. Obviously not to copy, but definitely good inspiration there.
dude. Yeah, just some homies that took a chance on it, and also like not to say that TikTok is what made that song successful. Their branding around that, like I don't know if you follow like their Instagrams or whatever, but they had like it was like these interviews with like each band member about like their life. It was just so well done. Like they planned it perfectly. Like I was like just like, man, these dudes are cool. Like I'm so hyped that I know these guys. Like it was awesome. It was a really cool moment for them. I hope it keeps going too, because their music is freaking killer. I love action adventure.
Yeah, and it's really cool to see like Friends succeed and also continually get better. Because like you said, the first EP, it's great, but you can still see the progression of the production getting
Absolutely.
better, the songwriting getting better, all of that.
Good dudes with good tunes.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, going back to that whole like elitist middle school kid mindset, it's hard to not think like, oh, good music never actually gets popular, but I mean, it's possible. Like they're doing it, and especially because we don't have to rely on radio anymore. Although that remains to be seen where that's going to go in the future, because it obviously is still around.
Right. I think, I mean, in terms of radio, it doesn't hurt to get your stuff out there. But there are a couple of stations on, it sounds weird to even say, but satellite radio. There's a lot of bands that blow up because of satellite radio, like XM.
Oh yeah.
Um, that Octane, there's an Octane channel. They play like all the newest rock and metal bands, and like 9 times out of 10, if your song gets on Octane, like your band will be like extremely relevant in the scene within a month or two. It's crazy.
Oh
Um,
yeah. Well,
that's another avenue I was thinking of.
yeah, and it's harder to do, but it makes sense that it would work, because I think those XM Sirius whatever conglomerate it is now, they're more connected to the publications and stuff, and more importantly,
Right.
they're not, as far as I know, they're not like a Clear Channel thing that has the like pre-made sort of playlists. So they
Right.
actually, part of their brand is actually showing new music, which doesn't happen very much on FM.
Exactly. Yeah, FM, I feel like it's just they get it and then they play it, and then XM, I think they actually like handpick and like look around for people or take submissions at least,
Yeah,
which is
because
pretty
the
cool.
DJs on FM, I think literally do not get a choice except for maybe certain times. Otherwise, it is
Hmm.
a pre-approved kind of playlist. Other than like, thankfully, we have in Nashville, we have a radio station that does like a locals like weekly thing where they play all local through the night, and then they choose one band to do for the rest of the week. And thankfully, like we've been able to do that once before. I don't think we didn't get to do the whole week, but they played it and it was like, technically we've been on the radio. So that's like something cool to say, even though
Oh
I
yeah.
kind of hate the radio currently.
I mean, it's definitely cool. I remember we did something similar like when we started, where it was, I think it's called Cincinnati Local Stuff on 96 Rock. That's like the big rock station FM in Cincinnati. That's always a cool feeling though when you like hear a DJ cut away to like your, I don't know. That's just like kind of a cool, like when you're young, you're like, I want to be on the radio someday, and then you finally get to hear it. That's cool that you guys got on there.
Yeah, well, and you're exactly right. The feeling is, it feels unique. It feels like you've accomplished something. And we were just like laughing that I think it was either right before or right after our song played, there was an ad for A Day to Remember tickets for like an upcoming tour, and we were like, that was probably a coincidence, but that's pretty dope that we had
That's
like a
tight. You guys
relevant
were like
ad
back
next
to
to it.
back.
Yeah. But although I think that was like one of our early songs before we had our real lineup, so it didn't
Oh
necessarily
yeah.
help as much as it should have. But still, I'm still really glad we had that experience. And speaking of, before you got to go to do your podcast, I try and ask everyone, but since we're talking about radio, everyone for 5 up and coming band or artist recommendations that we haven't mentioned yet. But also, I wanted to ask you, since we're talking bigger stuff, what if you could choose one big band to tour with your band? What would the best one be, or at least the most fun?
Dang. That's hard. Because there are so many good bands that would just be like, in terms of like fun, just fun to tour with, I feel like. But if I'm talking like realistically, like if we could land like a tour and I'd be like, what? I think it'd be really cool to tour with Seaway. I fucking love Seaway. And I feel like their newest album is like super, super underrated. I feel like not enough people talk about it. I love
It
that
is really
album.
good.
Um, if I was talking like from me personally, like just one of bands that I would just like to hang out with and play shows with, even if it wouldn't like fit necessarily, it'd probably be Under Oath because Under Oath is my favorite band of all time. Like I fucking love them.
Okay, nice. Yeah, I
The
remember
best.
you'll might appreciate this after several years ago when I was still working as a valet and they had just played one of their like comeback shows in Nashville. And I went to work the next day and I was like, "Oh, there's a tour bus." And there was often tour buses there cuz it's downtown Nashville. And then I
Hmm.
looked and I was like, that that's Aaron Gillespie. And then I was like,
Oh,
that's
dude.
Spencer. And they were just staying there. And I was like, I'm not gonna go up. And they also had like done some sketchy stuff at the venue. So I was like, I'm just gonna leave this be. But it was pretty interesting. And the same
Holy
job
crap.
I got to meet Matt Thiessen, who is a hero of mine from Reliant K and
That's
all
so
kinds of
sick,
stuff.
dude.
Yeah, it was really funny. And they were wearing those like super long, like Justin Bieber dress shirts. And I was like, you guys look kind of dumb.
That is so awesome. I feel like if I saw Aaron Gillespie that close, I would fanboy hardcore. I'd be too scared to even like. I'd be like, "Holy crap, it's him!" Because that's like one of the main reasons I got into singing was the dynamic of Spencer and Aaron on like their old. Well, I guess just all their albums, but um, particularly Chasing Safety. Like just Aaron's insanely punchy, high, poppy vocals, and then you have Spencer just like tearing his vocal cords, screaming. Like I don't
Right.
know. Growing up, I thought it was one person singing in the band because I didn't really look on the internet that much when I was younger. So like I'd seen pictures of the band, but I thought Aaron sang and screamed and did all that. But he also played drums, which is even crazier. But yeah, those are like my two main vocal influences too. Would be Spencer and Aaron. But yeah, playing a gig in general with them would be tight, or Seaway, man, for sure. Tour with those boys.
That's awesome. Those are two that I actually didn't expect, but obviously great choices.
Hmm.
And then five bands that you think deserve more attention because that's kind of the theme of my channel is getting attention to the underrepresented musicians.
For sure. Well, you mentioned Dustin earlier from Two Eyes Open. That dude is like one of the hardest working musician slash band slash whatever he wants to call it. Dude, he works so hard to like get his name out there, and his music's really good. So I'd say Two Eyes Open. I mean, no, this is Patrick. Obviously, you guys fucking kill it. That's another huge one. We can go with Action Adventure 2. They had their TikTok blow up, but they still need way more love. Like they deserve to be like up on the top, man. They're freaking amazing. Um, Shit. Let me think of some more. Um, Calling All Captains. Our boys in Calling All Captains. I was just on like a Twitch stream with Nick from Calling All Captains, but they have a new album coming out too, and it's going to be really good. So I think they should be on people's radars. Um, and I guess let's see. So we said Two Eyes Open, Action Adventure. No, this is Patrick. Calling All Captains. I also want to shout out another member of Calling All Captains. He's doing like some independent, kind of like hip hop, like emo trap stuff. It's the singer of Calling All Captains. His name is Luke. His artist name is Gaffwood. So check out Gaffwood if you're looking for something a little bit different, a little bit not pop punk or rock. He does like some emo trap stuff, and he actually released a couple of songs recently, and they're great. So definitely check out Gaffwood.
Okay, sick. Yeah, I'll definitely check that out. Thanks for
Yes.
bringing those up. And dang, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, to before we close out, you mentioned Calling All Captains, who also got a shout out. I was on a Twitch stream, but it was Shane's lead singer from Silverstein's lead singer syndrome Twitch stream, and
Mm-hmm.
he did like a local bands night to like literally just play 10 songs from bands that whoever was first to send it to his Instagram. And I
That's
tried, but
sick.
I didn't make the cut. But I was still on the Twitch stream, and they were talking about Calling All Captains, and I was like, oh hell yeah, I know them. I didn't know any of the other ones, and thankfully they were all phenomenal bands. And keep an eye out for that because I think he said he's going to do it again. So it would be dope to get Settle Your Scores. Ideally, also know this is Patrick and
Of
any number
course.
of other bands in front of him because he's like a hero. Silverstein in general are a big influence on me as well.
I freaking love Silverstein, dude. For
Yeah,
real.
they
They're amazing.
just
They get better with every album. It's crazy.
right like they do heavy and catchy combined better than almost anyone in my opinion. without
And like,
necessarily being like easy core. They're not easy core, obviously, but
dude, they're just I always say like, all right, if a new Silverstein album's coming out, it's gonna be better than the last one, and like I doubt that that's gonna be true. And then every time I'm like, how are they doing this? Like they just keep topping the last album. I mean, obviously they have the classics, like from way back in the day when they first started, like "Smile in Your Sleep," dude. Like how that is like an emo anthem, like, and they
yeah,
still get better. It's insane.
absolutely. Yeah, my favorite album is How the Wind Shifts, which is like to me like the ultimate. It's way heavier than some of their other stuff, but it's still like pretty emo.
Emo as heck.
It's so emo. But anyway, I
Yeah,
will let
dude.
you go on to your amazing podcast as well. Thank you, Christian, so much for being here. And hopefully I can talk to you again in the near future. And are you guys ready to kind of give a little tease to when the album's coming out, or are you holding on to that till things calm down?
Dude, we are. It's gonna be this year. It has to be this year. If it's not, I'm gonna cry. But it should be sometime this year. That's all I can say. But we should have something out pretty soon. Hopefully, if everything goes right.
Yeah, well, that's
I know
that's
it's
up to
really
you.
vague.
No, no, no. I totally understand. We're in a similar spot of like, well, no need to rush kind of thing, but so don't give into the pressure, but of course everyone is eagerly awaiting it, so including me. So I'm really curious and really excited to hear it. So definitely let me know if give me a little sneak preview if you want.
Of course, dude. Absolutely. I appreciate that, man. We really want to get it out to everybody. And it's been so long since we recorded it even. It's just we're trying to get everything together and we want to make sure it's a good release because with the climate right now, it's just weird. You know what I mean? With
Yeah, you got to get
Corona.
extra creative.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I have faith in you, and I'm looking forward to it. So everyone, go look up Settle Your Scores if somehow you haven't heard them yet, and then afterwards listen to know this is Patrick. But Settle Your Scores
Yes.
primarily. And thank you so much for being on here, man.
Hey, no problem, man. Anytime, for real. I'm always down to come back on. I love doing podcasts. I love hanging out with people in bands. It's always super fun. I feel like it's just fun to just like chat about music with people.
Yeah, especially because we can't hang out with anyone in person right now. So
I
this is
know it
this is a
sucks.
godsend for people like us.
Hell yeah.